in simple manner, because people keep hearing Sufi, Sufi. Nowadays it has become a fashion also. There is Sufi dance, there is Sufi music. A lot of money is being made in the market in the name of the Sufi. So it is a good idea to know what it means. And even in south and in the north and everywhere, people see dargahs. Ajmer, everybody knows. Nizamuddin is there in Delhi. In the south also, in Kadapa, lots of people go to some Sufi dargah. So in India, because the culture is so composite that everything goes together. In Bombay, there is Haji Ali. So there are so many places, and so we should know what Sufi is. Why I want to do this? Because there is somehow a misconception, because today most of them belong to this group, that Sufi means something to do with Islam only. So we have to clear this misconception. You are either a practicing Sufi or you are not a Sufi. You cannot be a theoretical Sufi. In the sense, most of the books written on this subject by Orientalists, which are Western experts on Sufism, can be read to understand some details, but you cannot get the essence of what Sufi is, because they are not Sufis, they are only Orientalists, they are experts on Sufi literature. So that difference is there. It's the same as somebody may be a great Vedic scholar or a Pandit in Sanskrit, but you can't say he's a yogi, because a yogi is only someone who knows personally what he's talking about, while the Pandit can read books, read commentaries and lecture on them. And also that Sufism is not a cult. Wherever you see a cult being practiced in the name of Sufism, people wearing a certain kind of uniform and wearing a certain cap and doing this and that, you can be sure, like Bahauddin Naqshband, one of the early teachers of the Naqshbandi order, said, the core is lost, only the shell remains. In fact, among the classical Sufis of ancient times, we think that Guru Nanak was himself a Sufi. Because it is not the religion that you come from or the language that you use that is meant by Sufi. If somebody does not know Arabic, that does not mean that he is not a Sufi. Because to say that God can speak only in Arabic can only be an Arab God, it cannot be a universal being. It's like saying God will talk only in Sanskrit, so it must be an Indian God, it cannot be a universal being. So if actually a Sufi also doesn't say I am a Sufi. It's like, and there is no such terminology called Sufi. It was a word coined some 200 years ago by certain Orientalists, because they found that some people who wore wool, which is woolen clothes, and lived in the oasis, who practiced some form of Islamic mysticism, because they wore woolen robes, and wool is in Arabic called suf. So they were named as Sufis. So there is no such word. In fact, the Sufis, real ones, call themselves travelers on the path, or they call themselves friends. Just friends. Now here in two meanings. One, friends with all. Two, friend of God. Both. So we can discuss this matter, that you don't fall into the influence of somebody thinking he's a Sufi and then caught up with this. You understand? Just because he does a whirling dervish dance which is organized with the tourism department of Turkey, it doesn't mean that he's a Sufi. And the Mevlevi order in which the whirling dervishes are supposed to be for a certain period of time for a certain set of people. Jalaluddin Rumi, who formed the order of the whirling dervishes, which is called the Mevlevi order, who do this whirling dance of the dervishes, he himself is on record saying that this is meant for a certain kind of people for a certain time and for a certain purpose. It's not universally done by anything. I must tell you a little Sufi story also, which is quite interesting. It's about this gentleman who was a disciple, a very close disciple of a great Sufi teacher. So this man actually lived in London and he worked in a bank. Not the teacher, but the disciple, the close. And he was a clean-shaven man who used to go to the bank in a suit because he was a chief executive up there. So he was staying in a flat from where he could see the Hyde Park. So one morning he looked out of his window and saw in Hyde Park a gentleman wearing a large beard and a green turban, neck full of rosaries, and a patched robe. You know, the Sufis wear patched. I mean, when this robe is torn, instead of buying a new one, they stitch. It's like to show that they are in poverty. I mean, they have stitched robes. If you want a contemporary example, Shirdi Sai Baba never liked to discard his clothes. Every time it got torn, he'll try to stitch it up. The Nath say he's a Nathpanti. The Sufi says he's a Sufi. So we don't know what. So anyway, so like that he was wearing a patched robe, but this was a new robe cut and stitched in different places, green, yellow, red. And he was standing there with a book in his hand and lecturing away, and lots of people had gathered. So one day, out of curiosity, he looked out and he kept quiet. Chalo, whatever, Hyde Park, many things happened. So next day again he saw him. Third day he couldn't resist it. So when the crowd had kind of dispersed, he went down. So it was a Sunday, so no bank. So he went down to this gentleman and he said, "Sir, greetings. Peace be on you." The actual Arabic word salam means peace. So he said, "Peace be on you," and so on. "Who are you, sir? Please tell me. I'm seeing you every day from my window. I can't help it." So he said, "Well, I'm a Sufi." He said, "Oh, you're a Sufi, but I'm also a Sufi." "How?" He said, "I'm a disciple of a great teacher." "Oh, are you? But I'm also a Sufi." The other man said, "I'm also a Sufi." He said, "But why are you not wearing clothes like me?" He said, "Because I don't think it is necessary." So he said, "But Sufis have a certain robe." He said, "From my understanding, no. They can wear anything they like." Then that man, the turbaned one, asks the bank manager, "Have you read Kashful Mahjoob?" Now this is a classic book on the Sufis. It's written by a person called Ali Hujwiri, who in Pakistan, whose tomb is in Lahore. Now, so in Lahore you have his tomb, and the local people called him Data Ganj Baksh. Thousands of people go there. This Data Ganj Baksh, who is known as Ali Hujwiri, is a person who wrote the first classical textbook on what are Sufi practices and what are the different schools of thought. He codified everything, like Vyasa codified the Vedas. And the book is called Kashful Mahjoob. That means revelation of the veiled. Veil meaning parda. Revelation of the veiled. That which is inside when the veils are removed. That's what it means. In that book, there is a description of the contemporary Sufi. Have you read it? So the bank manager said, "I have read it. Of course I have read it." "Then why don't you wear that robe?" So he said, "My dear friend, but that was written 700 years ago. And the whole thing about Sufi is that it moves with time. It's not once for all crystallized. It moves, it changes, it moves according to circumstances. You are talking about something written 700 years ago." And the gentleman says, "But I read it only last week." So you see, this is a Sufi story, so you can draw your own conclusions about this.